Welcome to another episode of Successfully Live. I'm Adam O'Donnell, the co-founder of Successfully. Today, I'm super excited to be here with John Deering. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me, Adam.
Definitely. John is the director of account-based marketing technology and strategy at Demandbase. We're actually in their office in the Rolling Stone conference room. I don't know if you can tell behind us. But today we're going to be talking about the alignment between marketing and customer success. We've been doing a series recently where we're talking to more marketing about customer success and how they should be aligning. So if you could just kind of first tell some examples that y'all have done here at Demandbase, we can just start with that.
We first started working on this a couple years ago because you hear a lot these days about sales and marketing alignment, but what you don't hear as much about is customer success and marketing alignment. But really the concepts are very much the same, but I think just more vision has been applied to the front side of the house than the back side. So about 2 years ago, we really started getting into this and figuring out, what do we need to do to get these two departments aligned? And the first really just started with communication. So making sure that we were a part of our customer success team meetings. We were there representing what was going on in marketing and making sure they were aware so that when they went into client calls and client interactions, they weren't kind of blindsided with, hey, I just got an invite to this. And they say, what was that? I've never heard of that, right? So we want to make them seem as informed as possible when they're out meeting with our clients. Then as we kind of got flex that muscle and got a little better at that, we started to think about how we could apply technology and marketing programs and things like that behind it. So one of the first ones we did was actually an onboarding program for our new customers where we kind of set the stage for the first 90 days for them and said, welcome, here's the information you need to get going. Here's, your CSM, meet them, some information about them to help them kind of build a more one-to-one relationship as opposed to just my account rep over at Demandbase. But hi, I'm John. I'm your CSM. I like long walks on the beaches and, all that kind of stuff so that they can start to develop that more personal relationship and really start to focus on the success versus, just the kind of typical vendor relationships that can sometimes exist, the walls that come up and things like that. So, so really that helped to engage the clients and help to really expedite their onboarding, making sure they had all the resources. And again, they were hitting the benchmarks they needed to get the technology stood up and, evaluating performance and all the mechanisms in place to understand if they were getting success out of our products.
Very interesting. So who on your marketing team was tasked with going to work with customer success to build that?
So we actually have a customer marketing manager. So they were the primary driver of that. Certainly there are other stakeholders involved, certainly the CSM team and their management to say, here's what we believe to be the proper steps for onboarding. Here are the messages we want to communicate. Here are some of the key milestones that we need to make sure they're hitting. And here are some of the potential challenges that we're seeing that maybe we can alleviate with some of that messaging, right? So, oh, I never saw that email that has, the instructions, right? Well, let's make sure they're getting that. If they didn't open that email, let's hold off a week and resend it again before we move them to the next step. So we took a lot of information, or the customer success manager took a lot of information in from the success team and said, here's what we believe to be the right messages, and let's go and implement that and figure out how to automate that so that, as a month ends or a new customer or quarter ends, a new customer comes on board, we can just implement them, get them into the program and get that going easily.
How did you justify just marketing spending time on that? Because at the end of the day, yeah, it's like great for the customers, but why marketing?
Why marketing? Simply because most CSMs don't have the specific skill set nor the technologies to do that type of stuff, right? That is a marketer's role, right? So if we just rely on the CSM to come up with that stuff, maybe some of the best are going to figure that stuff out on their own and track it and really drive it, but the majority of them probably aren't. And quite frankly, that's not necessarily their core responsibility. So that's the importance of, CSMs and marketing working together, because we both have specialized jobs and they need to work in congruence in order to reach that end goal, which is, ultimately reducing attrition and probably growing the lifetime value of our customers. So some of the analysis we did early on in our account-based marketing practice was to look at the adoption across different product suites and say, what's the sweet spot to drive retention? Which products have higher attrition rates, which don't? Where do we see attrition rates drop off when there's a certain volume of products adopted so that we can focus on the clients that maybe haven't hit that threshold and try to get them to it? And those that are there focus with different initiatives, right? So ultimately, we're measuring it by looking at reducing attrition or retention rates and then the growth of that account over time. But we have to take those segments separately and address their individual use cases in order to reach those goals.
That makes sense. Is there anything around ROI that you could really attribute to, like the thing that this has made the biggest impact on in terms of business outcomes?
Probably the communication and alignment between the teams so that we are addressing their pain points, taking in their feedback, and then delivering programs that are addressing those challenges is probably the biggest thing. How we apply different technologies or different campaigns is probably less of a driver of that. Uniquely to our business is, it's not a scenario where you can run an email marketing campaign and all of a sudden they're going to buy new products, right? Their adoption of new products is going to be derived based upon the pain points within their business and their growth pattern and their growth trajectories. So it's identifying those accounts and having the CSMs communicate back and say, here's a set of accounts that we know are ripe for, this new product. So let's go launch a campaign to them and see what we can do to at least make them aware, and then get the CSMs as they're going into meetings to start to kind of sell that concept or pour a little salt on that wound so they start to see more value and why they should be considering adoption of that product line.
That's great. So you're taking those ABM principles and applying them to your existing customers.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of what we hear about in account-based marketing today is around net new logo acquisition, but it certainly applies on the customer side of the house as well. It's really just about a specific set of accounts and how we need to market them for a specific business purpose.
What is the customer success manager actually giving to marketing? Are they giving like customer success qualified leads, or like how have you kind of had that conversation with, hey, if you see this in a customer, then throw that over the fence?
Unfortunately, what we haven't done is fully automated this from a digital perspective. We're still, I think, operating in a bit of an ad hoc scenario. But typically what happens in our conversations with CSMs is they say, hey, we have several accounts coming up this quarter. We're a little worried. Typically, attrition for us is tied to executive management turnover or stakeholder turnover. So a lot of times what they'll say is, hey, we have a set of accounts we're kind of worried about. And so they'll ask marketing to try to come up with some ideas of what we can do. And it could be anything from a specific program type, or maybe we go in on a one-to-one scenario and design a custom workshop for them to re-educate those new stakeholders, right? The ones that were there before have they saw success in ABM and value in us, and that's why we were doing business together. The new ones may not be as familiar, so you need to bring them up to speed with not only the strategy, but the products, how they're being used internally and how they can get value out of them so that they can continue to use them. So how do we measure ROI on that? That's still a little loose. I think we probably look at, did they attrit or did they stick with us? Were we able to expand their footprint of products, and the lifetime value of that customer? So they're still a little, they don't have deep attribution from that perspective the way we do on the new business side of the house, but we're really looking at it from the performance of, are we helping them to keep clients and making clients happier?
Want to ask a tough question because it's like marketing, you only have so much time, you have so much pressure to generate new pipeline. Like, what percentage of your team is allocated to current customers? Because I imagine it's not a huge amount.
Yeah, that's correct. So our marketing team is roughly about 20 people across the whole team. That's executive product, demand gen, field, web, advertising, digital, and customer marketing. So we do have one customer marketing manager. So you could ratio is 5%, right? So it's their sole job to focus on the customers. Now, other field or demand gen programs, be they more generic workshops that are in high value cities or webinars or content assets, things like that, those are still all being promoted to our customers just as informational resources and opportunities. But so a customer might get included in that campaign as a default, but then we have other programs that are specific just to customers. So newsletters with offers, our annual trade show, or our annual show, which is coming up, the ABM Innovation Summit. We have tracks specifically for customers, and we have customers talking on specific tracks, which are telling the hows of ABM. So that's a great way to really evangelize our customers and help them go to market and show how they've been successful, not only in ABM, but also using our products. So that actually helps strengthen those relationships as well, right? If we have a customer who's successful, is out there talking about how they're executing ABM and using our products to do so, the likelihood of them attriting is lower. It makes those conversations easier. So as part of the marketing programs, our newsletter, we're saying, hey, sign up to receive an award or to speak at our conference, or to speak at our workshops, or to speak at other trade shows, or to do a case study. These types of things that the customer marketers do. And then that helps us really expand the story and take more stories to our customers. Customer A did it this way. Have you looked at doing it that way? So we can use that information then to help them be more successful using the strategy and our products that maybe they haven't thought about those ways before.
I mean, it's just customer advocacy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's simple.
Do you have anyone on your of your team of 20 that are focused on customer advocacy, or is that same person?
That is that same person. Yeah. So they take on. Her name is Becky Higgins. So
Becky.
takes on advocacy as well as any programs related to them, and then is again our liaison between the departments. So as we're working on the onboarding programs and evolutionizing those and evolving them as needs change. So she's kind of our crux point between the two departments.
Are you growing in this? Are you trying to hire more people in this? Or are you still trying to figure out the real like the ROI?
We made great strides on the sales and marketing side, the new business development side. And now what we're doing is trying to take what we learned over there and apply it to the marketing and success management side of the house as well. So yeah, I think we're still dabbling around with the proper attribution metrics. We're definitely seeing it have an impact. We have a new strategic team that helps work with customers and help them figure out how to get more value to our products. So they have kind of evolved our onboarding story for the first and taken it to the first year. So now that's rolling back to saying, what kind of programs, what kind of awareness, what kind of messaging can we put in market that helps enforce what they're doing and support that, so that we have broad awareness across the account of what we're doing. And for example, if we do have stakeholder turnover in the middle of the year, that marketing message is still hitting that account and those new stakeholders. So they're at least aware of what we're trying to achieve within that time period, so that even if we do have that turnover, we can hit the ground running. We're not stuck with the mud and just pedaling back and trying to say, okay, we need to reset the baselines and start over. We have some of that stuff in play, and they can be aware of that and know what our objectives are as partners.
You mentioned stakeholder turnover. Do you how do you work with customer success on that? Do you have ways of triggering that ahead of time, or is customer success kind of letting you know?
So I imagine that's probably a challenge for most companies, especially in mid-market enterprise sales models and B2B, right? So historically, it's been a CSM come to marketing and say, we need to figure out a way to try to work within this account, and that usually happens after they've kind of thought through or tried all their plays on that account, and they say, okay, we need to up level it. We need either a strategist or a marketer to come in and help talk to these companies and see if we can drum everything up, and whether that's the re-education of the stakeholders or we need to figure out what their next move is so that we can deliver value. So that's been the model in which we have been operating till today, and will be for the near future. But we are in the process of modeling out some of that information to make sure we have deeper representation across the entire account of not only our buyer team, but our influencer team, right? So that if it is 3 stakeholders that turn over, and there are other members of that team that are aware of us, but maybe we haven't been working with directly, we can still communicate with them in terms of our marketing message, our priorities, and still can maybe lean on them to say, hey, it looks like there's been some shakeup. What's going on? Can you help us get meetings, or is there any information that can help us, get this thing back on track? And some of the other things we're doing, and we're doing this on the new business side of the house as well, is trying to automate the identification and acquisition of those buyer teams, so that we have those, we can equally segment those across all different systems, be it our CRM or our CSM management tool, which is called Gainsight, all the way over to marketing automation, into even our Demandbase platform and how we're doing things with our tools. And one of the cool things that we have in terms of our account-based advertising product is the way that we target companies actually eliminates that need to worry about stakeholder turnover. So some products allow you to target by first-party data. So if they're in your CRM system, you got them. But you have this new stakeholder who comes on board, you may not have them in your CRM system, so you no longer can target them. Whereas our advertising product will make sure that message, that key message for that first year of onboarding, is always in front of them. So we've been doing it ad hoc, but we're in the process of building out some automated ways to identify that then we can score against those accounts. And our CSM ops, which is a fairly new role, which you don't hear about a lot these days, right? You hear marketing ops and sales ops, but CSM ops is helping to build out that framework with us as well, so that we can identify that and create an automated way to say, oh, we need to go get those new stakeholders, or this is at risk, we need to launch this type of campaign to them.
This has been incredible.
Great.
Thank you so much for
Thanks,
your time. Adam. Definitely another great episode of Successfully Live.